All right, welcome back, everyone. Let's get started with our first pitch of the day. 3 crucial P&C market trends: the pressure for underwriting profitability, particularly given the loss rations in 2022, the increasing focus on enhanced risk assessment, and increased priority in advanced analytics, including predictive AI/ML capabilities, are rising as top priorities for insurers to improve customer experience, underwriting profitability, and financial results. To tell us more about their advanced analytic solutions, please help me welcome Pat Davis, SVP and GM of Data Products from Majesco.
Thank you, and welcome everybody. So today I'm going to take you through a quick presentation and talk about a couple things. One, really just about general overall data strategy that insurance carriers need to be thinking about, and I think many are, but why it's important for machine learning and BI and what we're doing at Majesco to try and address that. And also, talk a little bit about AI and ML tools and some of their impacts. And then at the end, time permitting, we'll show you what we're doing with Majesco GPT and with how that's changing the way people interact with software these days. So first and foremost, I'd like to sort of talk through, Majesco's overall strategy with what we call our intelligent core. So our intelligent P&C core suite brings together a couple of new features in our application that really make it, intelligent. So where that really starts is with business intelligence, which seems sort of obvious. It's something that we use in our daily business. Every one of us, I'm sure, is using reporting in our daily business today. But the difference being is that we're actually bringing business intelligence directly embedded into the application, along with the ability to build your own reports directly inside of the Majesco P&C core suite. So your standard day-to-day user of our application will be able to build significant reporting capabilities on their own and run those reports. And even more so, they'll be able to pin those reports to their dashboard interface, like you see at the top here, as widgets in a dashboard. So we're really excited about that particular feature because that's what brings data from reporting front and center for that user. Every single day they come in, that's what they see. You can almost think of it like a Salesforce, where you log into Salesforce and you get to see, the size of the funnel and what you closed this quarter and that type of a thing. But now you'll be able to create widgets on your own and publish those to your own personal dashboard or to other dashboards for other users. Again, permission driven. We also started to build out a lot of AI and machine learning tools inside of Majesco. 2 of those are mentioned below, with property intelligence and subrogation intelligence for claims, property intelligence for underwriting. And essentially what we're doing in those circumstances, we're taking Majesco data, again, where we can use it appropriately, and we're using it to build bespoke AI and machine learning models that are actually embedded within our applications. For property intelligence, we're using, millions and millions and millions of loss control surveys and photos to, layer AI on top of external data providers. And we'll talk about that later. And for subrogation intelligence, we're actually looking at all the claims data to try and make a determination if subrogation was missed for a particular claim. And we'll go through that as well. And then sort of the last item that's going to be a big change for the Majesco suite is really generative artificial intelligence, whereas a lot of people on this call have probably heard of the news, things like ChatGPT. ChatGPT is a large language model, but it's going to change the way you work with a lot of different applications out there, not just Majesco, because it actually allows the user to have a person. I was about to say person to person, but a natural language conversation between a person and a machine to do things like summarize a policy or take action on something. And we'll show that as well today. But all these things combined make it intelligent. I mean, we can save you on subrogation. We can help you avoid bad property risks. We can give data to your end users directly where they need it. And we can make it faster and easier to interface with our applications. And as we build out the intelligent core suite, you as a user of our intelligent core, you just get these additional features as part of that. So as we come out with new models, as we come out with new data sources, that just automatically comes forward to you as you take your upgrades of our software. So this quote's pretty simple. Basically, I'll break it down without just reading it, but it's essentially saying, like, to really have value in building machine learning and artificial intelligence or using something like ChatGPT, you really need to bring all your data into one location so that you can use that data to feed the AI and ML models. And that data's got to be well described and it's got to be reasonably clean. But it's all got to be in one central location that's easy for your data scientists to get to, your actuaries, and even your vendor companies like ours, so that we can unleash our data science teams against these. The funny part about this quote, I think, is that I actually asked ChatGPT to build this quote. I actually said, could you build me a quote that talks about the importance of bringing all data together for the use of machine learning? And this is what it gave us. So it's very insightful. Thank you, ChatGPT. And I guess what we're doing at Majesco to show you why that's important is that we're actually bringing together all Majesco data, and not just Majesco data, but also external data the carriers can bring as well, into one location using Microsoft Synapse and Azure platform. So all of our data from across all Majesco products, and again, external third-party products as well, comes into one Microsoft Synapse data lake. And that data lake is then available for all the reporting tools that we're going to be using within our application, including Power BI and their new Fabric interface for actually being able to build reports using natural language, which is a really cool feature that Microsoft is coming out with that we're going to have as part of our software. But the big point here is that, when you bring all this data together into one place with near real-time access, you really have the ability to unleash, that accessibility to the users that matter. So again, that's like data integrations out to other locations within your organization, but in a cloud native way, not in like the old way of like, I'm going to copy data here and there. This is actually using live connectors to the cloud for you to be able to see your data in like near real time or real time. Again, BI tools for your users to use, and their ability to use natural language and build reports against all the data in our system. Your AI and ML teams and your data exploration teams can all use this cloud native platform to be able to connect your users and their tool sets directly to all of your Majesco data and all your non-Majesco data if you choose to load it in there. So again, automatic synchronization of data and the structures of the data. So even small changes, even large changes will automatically sync over. We have a lot of ready to use data sets that allow you guys to easily query the more complex data. And it's all near time, real accessible. So you can tell me, hey guys, we use Cognos internally. And I'll say, great, here's our connector for Synapse for Cognos. You can connect your Cognos instance live, and you can query that data along with all the other data in your organization, literally in minutes, with us giving you that key and that access. So that's one of the real big benefits to this approach. This is a sort of more technical example of this, but basically it's showing that we're using another company that's a sister company to ours called Click to be able to sync all Majesco data into our data lakehouse. And also third-party data and batch data sources into this lakehouse as well. We're curating that data. We're making sure it's cleaned up, but it is all data. We're adding data sets. We're adding cubes. We're adding rolled up data, and then we're having that available for consumers. And again, those consumers are your data science teams, your internal BI teams, and whatever tools they use, getting live access to that. So we're really proud of this this approach. So as part of our main application, I mentioned it before, but all users of all Majesco products are going to have this ability to build their own reports, and with Power BI embedded in our application. So it's not like you're jumping out to Power BI. Power BI is literally embedded as part of our core app. And you'll be able to use all the canned reports that we've built out for you, but also the ability to build your own reports, publish those reports either for your own use or for others' use. And again, that's with full visualizations. You can do list reports. You can do all kinds of really interesting things. And again, it's against all Majesco data, plus all of our curated data sets, making it really easy for you guys to be able to do that. So your basic business type user that, knows how to use Excel pretty well, they'll be able to use this interface to build their own reports. And as I mentioned before, you'll be able to take one of these reports and literally publish these as widgets for your dashboard as a user. So if this, DWP financial report for the prior quarter is something you wanted to see on your dashboard, you'd be able to say, save this as a dashboard widget. And now every time you logged into the application, you would see that on your dashboard. So again, it's bringing reports from being something that are very demand driven, where you have to go seek it out and run it once a quarter or every week or whatever. And it's bringing that up a level so that you can actually, see it right when you log in, and it's right front and center for you, just like a Salesforce dashboard type of a idea. The next thing to talk about really is property intelligence. So property intelligence is a really interesting tool. I came from a property background, actually. So, I founded this company, Utilent Loss Control 360, which was acquired by Majesco in 2021. And that company has a loss control product that is used by, tons and tons of carriers and vendor companies across the entire country. And within that, we've collected over 16 million loss control surveys, along with over 200 million loss control images that are tagged by people in the field. And all the data points that go with that, which is billions of data points about electrical and heating systems and about hazardous conditions and recommendations and property characteristics. And we're able to use that data where appropriate to train machine learning to look for certain things. The example on the right shows the ability to identify solar panels, which is pretty simple, and it's kind of table stakes these days for aerial image analysis. But the way we actually figured, the way that we trained our model to look for, solar panels was to look across all of our loss control data and say, can you please give me a list of all solar panels that we've identified and the time that they were actually identified on that property? Then we pull the aerial image from one of our aerial image partners, and then we train our machine vision models to be able to see the solar panels. Same idea behind ponding, roof damage, sort of go down the list. So it's correlating loss control data and point in time, both to the type of risk, but also to the hazardous conditions that exist at that risk. And we've done the same thing for being able to identify images of the front of the risk, and in the near future, images that come from other third-party sources, being able to identify interior image conditions as well. And this is something that many of our loss control clients use today for that image recognition. Again, this is pre-integrated with our software. So on your property risks, you'll be able to see all this different scoring across these 8 or 9 different areas. And we're adding areas all the time, like roof condition and scoring. We have our similar risk scores or replacement cost analysis. The list sort of goes on and on. But inside of our Majesco Intelligent Core Suite, you'll be able to actually see the property scores and then determine what you want to do loss control work on or not. So we think it's a great tool for stack ranking and viewing properties that you're writing business on. One of the items that we've added recently for claims in our Majesco Claims product is a subrogation detection model. And this is actually a real example of our subrogation detection model ran against one of our clients. And again, in this particular case, we essentially identified around $1 million average per year in savings from missed subrogation opportunities. And we're using large language models to analyze the sentiment and the content of all of the notes and unstructured data within a claim to look for the subrogation opportunities that may have been missed by the claims people. Again, we think this is really compelling. $1 million average in savings from missed subro. We help to push this up to the dashboard, let people know, try to get that subro as early as we can, but also we create reporting that uses this data to be able to go back and look at past missed subrogation opportunities. So again, just another example of us embedding this really high value tool directly into the claims process for our Intelligent Core claims users. So I think a lot of people want to know a lot more about GPT interfaces, and we're really excited about ours. And I know these are kind of small screenshots, and I apologize, and I'll show a little bit more later. But essentially within our Majesco Intelligent Core, you're now going to have this sidebar interface, like it shows here, that allows you to chat and ask questions about the data within the Majesco systems. So there's a couple examples here of just general question asking. Like you could ask a question like, how many policies are going to be renewing next quarter that are over $100,000 in premium for property? And it can actually go out to the database, query that, and return an answer. Again, the one on the example on the right is helping with this claim, and it's saying, can you summarize all the claims data for me? And it can do this using natural language, and it's not canned. I mean, anyone who's used ChatGPT here would know, like, it's not a canned interface. You can ask it to re-summarize or change the summarization or make it more detailed, and it can do all those things. And again, we're using Microsoft's implementation of ChatGPT 4 along with data access tools to all of our internal Majesco data, both structured and unstructured, for you to be able to ask questions, for you to be able to get help with our software. So we've indexed all of our help guides. We've indexed all insurance forms. We've indexed the data in the system. So you can ask, summarize this policy, generate a correspondence to this insured. You can say, help me with this claim. You can say, I got a question about the Majesco policy system, and it can handle those types of queries. And that's going to be part of our software that allows you to basically interact with a ChatGPT model and work with our software side by side using what we're calling Majesco Copilot. And the big thing about a Copilot is that a Copilot's there to assist you. It's not there to change our staffing levels or anything. It's there to make people more efficient. This will also be extended to other areas of our application as well. I think one of the examples it makes here is in our loss control application, you'll be able to automatically generate a recommendation, almost like how I made the quote earlier in ChatGPT. You'll be able to say something like, can you generate a recommendation for a fire department riser that hasn't been inspected? And it will generate a recommendation off of past recommendation examples. So just, again, really, really cool stuff. This is a really technical slide that's probably not really useful in this circumstance, but again, it gives you an idea of like what that sidebar interface looks like, which is then being processed by Majesco GPT and Majesco Copilot using OpenAI ChatGPT 4. Again, Microsoft's implementation of this. So there's data privacy, and it's properly handled from a security perspective. And then we're using things like Azure Cognitive Search and SQL Access, Majesco's own internal AI models that we built, and third-party AI models to be able to answer questions that the user might query. Again, sort of more examples. Help me with this claim, summarize it, summarize all claim payments, suggest next steps for this claim. But then you can just type your question and ask a question about the claim. Again, just one example of using it in a very specific area, but summarizing this policy, I need backdated endorsements. Is there a specific exclusion that's on this particular risk? Are there any open invoices? How much was dispersed to this policy on 5/1/23? All just examples of like random questions you can ask. Like, don't feel like you're boxed in. Like, the point of this is that it's using a large language model, like you're interacting with a human, to be able to answer questions about structured data that it understands. Taking that even further, one of the really high value things that ChatGPT does, and what Majesco Copilot GPT will do as well, is helping you to write correspondence. It can take a large amount of data and make it into a correspondence, and it can use past correspondences as its example, but it can structure the new correspondence to that whole new data set. And then you can ask it to do things like, can you make this shorter? Can you rephrase it? Can you make it more casual? And you can do those things right within the natural language interface. Again, Majesco Copilot always by your side. So we talk about this like, it's right in the sidebar of your application. You can ask it questions regardless of what screen you're on. It understands that if you're on a policy, I can ask questions about that policy without specifying what policy I'm asking about. Same thing for claims, same thing for billing. But again, conversational based help, it knows your forms and data. It can ask it about specific transactions. It covers insurance-based forms that you can ask questions on. And you can inquire about the product portal and our help documentation, all within one interface. And we're going to keep expanding this as time goes on to make it smarter and smarter. So the next piece here that I sort of come to is another ChatGPT based quote that talks about the true power of large language models. And this is true, right? And I sort of covered it through here. The real power of these is to make people more efficient. So if that's in helping you write an email or a correspondence to an insured or summarizing a policy, the point of it is to come alongside you to help you do something. But the human review, the human in the loop, is still extremely important with these types of large language models. But they can really help save a lot of time. So if a large language model takes 10 seconds or 7 seconds to build an email to the insured discussing their claim, and it uses all the claims notes and data and the amounts paid or not paid to build that claims correspondence, it might have saved someone 8 to 10 minutes of actually having to write that email themselves. Instead, now it takes 7 to 10 seconds. It builds you the email. And then essentially, you can say, I'm going to wordsmith this, or I can ask it to wordsmith it, and then I can send it out. But the whole point is that it saved you a really nice chunk of time as the claims person or underwriter on that particular item. So, again, the whole point is for this thing to just save your users a ton of time as they're using our applications. So with the last few minutes, I'll take you guys through a quick demo of this. I actually had the demo set up so that just in case I didn't have enough time here, I saved my chat conversation, but I will try to do it live, which is always a fun one. So I'm going to go ahead and clear my chat. This is a past chat I did. And just to show you what this sort of looks like, this is like the sidebar interface within our policy or claim system. And the background here is that, I'm a customer service person, I'm an underwriter, and I need to figure out if there's garage keepers coverage on this particular risk. So I'm going to say, can you summarize this policy for me? And it's going to go out to our database and to the policy documents, and it's going to come back and summarize it. Now, I could ask it, like, can you expand on this summary? And we can even customize this a little bit within our application to have longer or shorter summaries based on your preferences. So I could ask a follow-up question like, can you summarize this in more detail or not? But for the sake of the demo, I'm just going to ask it what I want to know here. So does this policy have garage keepers coverage on it? So I'm going to go ahead and ask it that question. And it's going to come back and say, nope, that policy just definitely does not have garage keepers coverage. And you can see here, I can jump right to the policy, or I can ask it another question. So maybe I'll say, well, I don't actually know how to add an endorsement using the Majesco system. So I'm going to ask it, how do I add an endorsement, using the Majesco policy system? And it's going to come back and search our help guides now. So what's important here is, like, I was just asking it all these questions about, a specific policy and a specific endorsement, and I didn't have to like change my intent. I just asked a different question that said, hey, how do I go about adding that endorsement? And it went and searched our help guide. So it understands the difference between questions that are being asked, right? I could even say, like, here's how you add an endorsement. Maybe I'm like, well, what other endorsements can I add? And I would say, tell me more, right? And it'll come back with even additional data. And I could even switch to my context again once it comes back from tell me more. And I could say, well, maybe I've got a question about what form I should use. And what's really interesting is that it actually understands the state of the coverage that you're in already, because it already knows the policy I'm on. So it'll already suggest to you the appropriate form that you need to use. And again, I'm no longer asking a question about a specific policy. I'm asking a physician about what form I use in insurance to add garage keepers coverage, right? So CA 993-71001. Now I could download those forms, or I could ask another question like, can you summarize that form? And it'll come back and actually summarize that form for me. Long story short, though, again, I can then ask it, can you write me a piece of correspondence letting the insured know that, I just added garage keepers coverage for that policy, and I can see that the insured is Neha here, and I could say, I actually want a piece of correspondence to the agent in this case. So I'll say, can you actually please write a piece of correspondence to the agent letting them know that I added the garage keepers coverage as of today. It'll go ahead and actually write that based on the policy details. And then from there, I can ask it to do something like make it more casual or more concise or more elaborate. Or like I'd like to do in these demos, I could say translate to Spanish. Just to prove a point, I'll say something like, can you write it like you are a surfer? Like you just ripped some waves, you're out in California, and I'm going to ask ChatGPT to rewrite that correspondence like I'm a surfer. And again, the point of it's funny, first of all, but the point of showing you this is actually to show you that, like, it's actually using like the true back end of ChatGPT to understand what's going on. So now it's saying, sure, dude, wanted to give you a heads up, and thanks for choosing Majesco as your insurance provider. We're stoked to have you on board. So we're essentially using these large language models to be able to do some very, very interesting things within the Majesco ecosystem, and to be able to give you guys some, real uplift, in my opinion, on your day-to-day items that you guys work with. So with that, I'm at my time, and I'm open to questions.
I can already think of a whole bunch of interesting applications. I'd like to remind everybody to click on that live Q&A box and ask some questions if you have some. I guess in the meantime, there's a question that I had, which is that this person works with a small carrier, and they really don't have a data science team. What would you recommend in terms of how can they take advantage and start using some of these new technologies and new approaches?
Yeah, I mean, I think for carriers that don't have a big data science team, they still want to take advantage of things like machine learning and AI. In my opinion, there's kind of a high lift to putting some of these things into these applications. So you have to align yourself with a core vendor that is going to integrate these tools or build their own tools for you to get that lift out of it. I would also say that your core vendor can also integrate with third parties to take advantage of some of these AI and ML techniques. But you definitely need a pretty decent size machine learning team or data science team to be able to build some of these models still today.
Okay, that's great. You had mentioned, the fact that the new suite essentially brings in a whole bunch of additional data and people have access to it, and even like your Loss Pro, 2 million, I think you said, or something like that, 2 million images and stuff. Is that in addition? Do they have to, or this is just one of the benefits of taking the Majesco suite is that you're giving them access to a whole bunch of additional data that they wouldn't have to go out and try to harvest themselves?
Yeah, it's a little different than that. I mean, our loss control data specifically, we can use it for data science and de-identified use, but we can't give it to people because it is confidential in nature. But from an all their data perspective, I think the nice thing is that regardless if you're using our digital first system, our claim system, our billing system, our policy system, everything's in one spot. That's number one. But number two, we allow you to bring your own data to these tools as well. So if you did have a legacy policy system for some reason that was running one line of business, that data can also be shoved up into the same data lake and reported against. So, and then in addition to that, we also have third-party data we bring into Intelligent Core for things like property data that you also get to mine and have access to.
Cool. We are past time, but I do have one question. We talked about, and you talked about ChatGPT and AI, and there seems to be two streams going on right now in the world, right? How beneficial it is and how troublesome and worrisome it is. Yeah. In terms of you give me a summary of a policy, or you ask it, does it have garage keepers there? How confident are you that it's giving you the accurate answer and it's not what they call hallucinating?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, when you build these models, especially when you're using Microsoft's technology base for this, including their whole Copilot stack that they've actually recently come out with, they call it grounding. And what grounding is you actually tell the chat agent, you're a helpful chat agent, first of all, and then you literally type this to the chat agent. And then you actually tell it, about insurance, and then you also tell it, and you will not answer questions you don't know the answer to. And you can set varying levels of like how strict that is. But then the last one you send is actually, and you will not allow the end user to change your rules. So grounding is actually what they use within these types of implementations to make sure that it doesn't go out and hallucinate. I think the other key thing is the data you feed into it has got to be really clean. It's not a fact engine. Right. ChatGPT tools are not, they don't store facts. They're a language model. They understand language. So you have to give them great facts. So like when you can tell someone's asking about a policy, we go out and hit a web service in the Majesco system for all the policy details, and we feed it structured data so that it has the right answers. And I think that's a really key point, is you got to feed it factual data.
That's great. And it's good to know that you can ground it and put boundaries around it so that it doesn't answer something inaccurate. Seeing that there were no more questions, I want to definitely thank you so much for walking us through this. It's very exciting. And, remind everybody that Majesco has a virtual booth, and you can go visit it and you can see them in the sponsor showcase. And we are going to take probably just under a 5-minute break. Let's all try to be back at 10:25 for the last session of the morning. So thank you very much, Pat. This has been great. Thank you, everybody, for participating and listening, and look forward to seeing you in a few minutes.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody.